never be ready for doing a video like this one. But the world can't be ready for living in a state like it's a potential. If we just autopilot, let things continue the way they're going, we can't be ready for what that is. So I feel this video is forced to probably, I've made a B-reel of me setting this up. It took a moment of time. Probably worth it. If we consider the option of, well, any option, autopiloting away is off a cliff. Seeing the end of this epoch of humanity, if you will. We don't want that. Nobody wants that. So let me set the scene. I'm Sunday morning, probably a lot more noise around me than I would choose to have, probably industrial in nature, some of it, sadly. I'm keeping my voice low because I probably shouldn't be. There's a building off to the side, apartment building. I'm of the belief they can probably hear me. It's kind of summertime, probably got their windows open. I don't want to disturb them. I like to think at this time of day everyone's asleep. I was. I didn't sleep really well because of the nature of the world, where we're at. Please excuse me, I'm kind of hoping. I've got a backup microphone, got a Rode microphone, made in Australia, Rode microphones, woohoo! But yeah, I'm running hopefully a backup recording off a phone over here, B-reel. Probably another one down here. I've made a lot of these recordings and they just don't work out. So, desperate to make one actually happen. Gonna give it a crack. So, Australian financial plan, recovery plan, if you will. And it's really hard for me to pitch this because there's what I've foreseen and how I think, how I absolutely believe our country can rise above. And then there's the idealistic state, which I guess, if you're into star signs, the Aquarian, the humanitarian in me really wishes could happen. And they're not one and the same. For the ideal state to happen, the whole world has to jump to the beat of a changed plan. We need to stop trying to rip each other off in order to get ahead. It's hard to convince everybody to do that. So I can only work off very much more a concrete plan. Hence choosing this location. There's just cracks in the wall behind me. I think it's kind of fitting. We need a plan. Nobody seems to be pitching one. The problem is that a true solution requires a complete paradigm shift. It requires us to understand it exists, aspects of it prop itself up. And so, without doing a complete changing of the way we think regarding how we can roll something out, like the plan I'm hopefully about to pitch, hopefully my cameras will record long enough, hopefully I won't be interrupted. Energy flows where attention goes. The more I think about these things, the more likely it is for a complete fail and collapse to happen. So I don't put any energy into that. Just stare at the roof a lot, trying to think, well, how do we do this? And apologies, I understand people judge it based on how you look. And the real way to pitch a plan like this is to suit up, put the tie on, make it look like I've got a background or a professional attitude, I guess, such that people would possibly believe the words I'm saying rather than trying to shoot them down as I'm saying them, going, oh, that could never work. Because if I was on your side of the camera and I was to hear somebody trying to describe a solution in a sentence by sentence, a word by word format, which is how we have to present things, A to B to C. If I took this typical mind state of the world, which is rejecting information, rejecting information, rejecting information, that's how the world trains us to be presently, then I wouldn't even keep listening. I would have already left. So if you've already stayed through to the video to this point, hopefully my production values are good enough that I've held you here. I'm willing to spend money, a little bit of rent, willing to spend money buying a video editor maybe this time, and I'll see if that's what I have to do to put a couple of different pieces together to maybe get one coherent video, possibly even with cuts. I don't want to do cuts. I like to keep myself on the camera. I think the term is warts and all. My fails. I do believe my body language is worth something for genuineness. Say with my legs crossed, dressed like a hippie. My missus made me these pants. Probably thrift store finds all around. Not really. Good shoes. My family always raised me to believe in good shoes. But they're probably more brutish than I like. I prefer the Rockport World Traveller. And my last set of those I did get from a thrift shop, even though they're a size out. I probably had 3 or 4 pairs of them in my life. Get about 5 years a piece out of them. Play soccer with the kids, do whatever. Great shoes. They got bought out by another company, and per usual, quality goes downhill. More profits are needed. So now I've got second-hand pairs of them. Maybe I was just trying to be cheap. Hence I say the size was out a little bit. None of that really matters. If you've got faith to believe in someone, or you think the message is more important than the person sending it, then again, you might still be here. In an ideal world, this message will have been shared on to you. It will have gained traction, and people might actually be believing in this, giving it some credibility or some hope. Just with hope, maybe just passing it on. We did have a webpage in our country for a financial plan, some way to get us out of trouble. I didn't know about it for quite a while. I was driving a bus one day and just saw it on a sign. I was sitting in a bus one day, sorry, I was being driven like Miss Daisy, if you're wishing, a Mercedes going down the road. And I don't know if buses are still Mercedes, but there once was a time they were. That statement would have been quite true. Driven down the road, chauffeur style, looking out the window quite casually, and so this billboard in a bus stop, and it said something like, this webpage for, I don't know, pitching your ideas for Australian financial recovery. I think it might have been an economic plan or something. I'm guessing it was the government's, which means we're doomed. It's not that I don't believe in my government. I don't believe in any world government right now, because corporations have become bigger than governments, and businesses have a lot of people that are always trying to circumvent the law and finding one step ahead of the law's always trying to play catch up. And so we really need frontier law. We need to make the punishment worse than the crime, because businesses know that the fines never ever take off them the short-term money they make doing unethical and unscrupulous things. So I've got some attitudes, sure. But I like to put my attitudes aside when pitching such an idea. I guess it's important that people see me as a vesicle in terms of what my worth isn't much. So let's just try to ignore me. Right? I could have some footage of a pond, birds flying down over it, and have this voiceover. That'd be just as valid, probably more so. We do need to make a plan. It needs to be all-inclusive. Needs to factor so many facets of life, from the youth to the elderly. Just look after the people in between. Crazily, no one's factoring this one in. What about quality of life, eh? What about actual happiness? I think those things should be factored in too. I think they're actually quite important. I think if we have those in place that raison d'etre, is a reason for being, we might actually have one. Where does one begin? Australia has this crazy geography. On the east side of our country, I'm on the west right now. On the east side of the country, we've got it's called the Great Dividing Range. Creative in naming things, aren't we? What's that range doing now? It's dividing our country. Oh well, it's pretty big. In Australia, we make mountains out of molehills, so Great Dividing Range. But that being said, it does raise up to a plateau, and just temperature changes, it's it's gone up. And it turns out that the wind coming in off the ocean and blowing in across the eastern states kind of doesn't really carry the water much past the Great Dividing Range. Makes it a bit of a geographical barrier that we have to get past if we wish to make use of the land in the middle of our country. And we do need to make use of the land in the middle of our country, because if you set out on a journey, there's a chance that you'll make your destination, right? At the moment, we've got our sails up, sure, and we've got great speed, but I don't think anyone really knows where we're going to. So the chance of us hitting our destination is slim at best. Maybe if divine winds blow us on the golden shores, we'll get there, but really we should take the energy or the effort into our own hands, and we should do something for ourselves. So with that, I guess that's why this video exists. Excuse me, I probably haven't got that perfect 45-degree angle of light down on my face to make me look beautiful. This isn't a beauty video, if you like. Yes, we've got this great dividing range, we've got this incredible chunk of land, we've got this world with a growing population, and chances are, if the human epoch is to continue, we will need to make use, or better use, of the present land that we've got. Certainly we'll have to make better use of the minerals and the primary resources that we've got, because prices of everything are going up on the basis we've got a growing population, and yet we still build everything to fail. We still build everything with a very short-term life, and then we don't seem to recover the resources that have gone into those items. So we need to change a few things in our ethics, our modus operandi, our ways of doing things, if you will. So recovering land, that's a large part of it. There's precedent for it. It happened in America. The centre of the continent was deserting. I think about 1 million people. It might have been the 1930s. They all kind of either quit their jobs or probably took temporary hiatus. They went out and they worked together. Right, as I say, precedent has been done for this. Everyone worked together and they reclaimed desert land, essentially. Created swales, sort of just little ruts, such that water can collect in them and probably stay there. And bit by bit you can change weather patterns, you can change all sorts of stuff. We need to change weather patterns in a long-term and doable method. At the moment you get private enterprise going out there and they use little satellite dishes, essentially reflectors, punching a hole through the ozone layer, which I think creates a suction or a vortex which pulls possibly clouds towards that location. And these people, again, commercial world, being unscrupulous for profit, actually make money doing this. They get to travel around the world and offer rainmakers, offer rain to little townships and stuff. And yeah, sure, the weather changes, and sure, they get rain. At what long-term damage? We need to come up with longer-term methods of doing this. And so, I guess part of my proposal is that we're building a long-term infrastructure. So things like permanent infrastructure, I believe, like a monorail system, a mass transport system that allows great distances to be travelled, such that you can build one mall to service many people, and then have people get to it. That a major hospital doesn't have to be built every blah 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 blah, because using high-speed monorail, you'd be able to get people over great distances, ideally, and of course set up in such a way that the timing of these vehicles is always available. But, if you need to clear the tracks, so to speak, you can't do that with a monorail service. But I guess 2 parallel tracks, I've never seen that in my head. I've always just seen one. Just, the fact that the society works well enough together that if for any reason medical emergencies need to come through, that you just give it right away at every level. But yeah, that can be achieved with multiple engine carriages, if you will, actual multiple monorail trains to ride it, such that you've got a reserve in any given direction needed to go at any given time. But let's not sweat the small stuff there. I do believe that a monorail is, and trust me, I've put a lot of effort and thought into this, and I can picture longingly for all the little aspects, but I don't believe the vision's mine. I have seen it, I believe I've lived in it. It's pretty beautiful. Essentially what the people are doing is a distance of that monorail, north and south, because we've got an east-west need to roll that out. But we do primary resource growing, essentially. We grow food and produce in a way that's conducive with the earth. Again, we're trying to change weather patterns, so there's a lot going on there. We do have a large reserve of water underneath the continent that could be useful for some aspects of it, but personally I do believe we probably need some sort of a desalination and transporting, potentially again using the monorail inland, just water for agriculture reasons. But probably more to that. There's comes down to with solar and storing of energy, that a large part of the cost is in the batteries. So during the day, while we've got energy in reserves and needing to store it, if we're not, if we're using it to save power, send mass transport system. We should be able to make use of a few things all coming together so that the environmental impact is quite low. Of the natures of wind farms and stuff, but I do believe if sort of tunnel over some valleys and do certain things, you can, through temperature control, get better usage out of solar panels. All of this stuff is ideas that you'd pitch back if there was private enterprise still. I guess you'd be doing research for them in terms of, what's an optimised temperature, this is how much power we can actually eke out of these things, etc., all feedback systems. But trying to get... I feel like I'm getting convoluted. And because I haven't written down a plan for describing this video, I'm just doing it out of the need of it to be done. I guess I'll cover the little bits as I think of them along the way. Let's just treat me like ADHD, like possibly everybody else. That's why I'm doing the video at this time of day, because there's just a little bit less Wi-Fi in the air, a little bit less brain fog, if you will. So the notion of making use of solar power and wind power, or just earth effective powers, if you will. Look, things like building our houses into the ground. So I forgot some points there. For example, at the mall, if we pump water up, the nature of water wheels turning, you can generate power off. It doesn't have to be much. You might be able to power the lighting at the mall, but again, it's a thing you can do if you've got reserve power during the heat of the day with solar cells, without going to batteries per se. Just pumping water up and letting it roll down, possibly through the middle of the mall, having a really nice waterfall system. Really massive mall. Beautiful cinemas up the top and stuff. A large part of it, I believe, is when we live in a happy society, you're going to have happy riders. I imagine that media that is actually something we want to consume. Actually, role models in some instances. Happy relationships, because let's face it, children aren't growing up in families anymore that they get to see any real engagement face to face, but also that for decades, because drama sells, most people's concept of relationships are dramatic, to say the least. And it's not necessarily true. It's just a role modelling to people how to not live. And I just think when we've got a happier society, some of our media, in terms of the quality or the content of it, will change slightly. But look, at the end of the day, having people in a safe and healthy space to write the media, even if they're writing scary horror movies, they will probably be better quality, right? Because there'll be less tumultuousness in that writer's life, such as their own personal issues getting encoded into the writing. They might be able to be more creative. So, growing primary produce, that's a large part of it. Band. So that, just like so you get a camp, it's a really well-designed city, and it's got major travel lines, and then you get the smaller suburbs where the travel speed's a bit slower. Studies have been done that if you keep below 80 kilometres an hour, impacts accidents, people survive, right? Society as a whole can't really sustain higher speed travel, and so countries like Australia, where we've got this wide geographic zone, a lot of people want to have less travel time. So the nature is we want faster roads, but accidents at high speed, society as a whole can't afford the medical costs or the loss of life. So monorail, control. Look, technology can change these things. I mean, let's face it, electronic cars, autopiloting and whatnot could lower all those sorts of things. It's amazing when we try to see things under the current paradigm of the current science, how things fall apart. We go, there's not enough car parks in town, but if everything's Ubering or everything's electronic cabs in and out of town, the needs for those sorts of car parks changes. It's a shame about our cities, because usually they're where the best agricultural land is. So people create a civilization or a hub in those locations, and then bit by bit the value of the land goes up and up in value, such that we turn into skyscrapers. And we're no longer making use of what was fantastic regions in the country for growing. And that's standard all around the world. And when you look at the cost in terms of hundreds of billions of dollars, possibly trillions of dollars when you look over an extended amount of time, that we use reformatting our cities for a growing population somehow in a zone that's already been done. And then the nature of knocking stuff down when we've got homeless and hungry people, we're spending money on all the wrong things. Tourism, maybe. Lots of potential reasons, but what if we were to take that money and to constantly work on the attitude of let's build something good, and let's build something with the future in mind, and let's invest our money wisely, is my belief. But we need to have cells, essentially. We need to be self-containable, such that we can self-produce and survive. I mean, a lot of the world at the moment has supply lines going all around it. A lot of the products I buy, in fact, I try to buy nice products that are reliable, and that usually requires me saving up a little bit. I get to do the research while I'm reading about it. Quite a few of the products will have, the parts that are inside them will come from 7 different countries, so at the moment we can do that, but it's not always a given. And with regards to food, we can't just put the burden on our farmers that we've screwed down, like we've lost farming as a precious resource, because it's such a hard job. You're dependent on the weather. Look at the suicide rate of farmers. It's toxic masculinity, arguably. People looking after their families, and if they have a bad season, they really take it to heart. So, a bit unfair, but with the supermarkets screwing over the farmers in terms of what the value of their crops are, and everyone trying to bring down the amount they're actually paying in some competitive markets, we're losing some of the most important aspects of our future, if we're to have one. So I do believe in that zone around that monorail is primarily a lot of farming. But again, I have done videos on this in the past. I do believe that the way I would structure the workforce is such that we have a very happy workforce. There's ways of doing this where we can still run call centres and do all the crappy jobs and feel good about it. And a large part of that is not having a huge attrition of staff. Because if you go into your workplace and not just yourself, but everybody on your team is capable of performing that role to the absolute highest level or standard capable, stress levels drop right off, which of course means attrition drops right off. And the professionalism, and so when you engage with customers, being able to get a result in like that first point of contact and in a timely manner, means you get less angry customers means people aren't hanging up on you. So we'd have top tier, in terms of quality standard, our call centres, and I've worked for the best. Places that do Microsoft, and I'd list some of the others, but I think it would get my video flagged. Let's just say a lot of securities and various other agencies. And I've worked for those models. ISO 9002 rated, international superstar, arguably. So I've seen call centres work. I know how to restructure them. I know how to make them work. And it's not that I want to just be the boss of everyone. I've got this vision. And I've seen it, and it all works. You've got all these creatives, you've got all these people making media, be it video games and movies, and that there is worth top dollar, and it's make it once and it sells, and it's digital distribution. And so it's profit without there being cost and primary resources. So it would quickly get Australia, and I believe this should be practically rolling out across the whole world, in parallel, such that anybody that wants to be in a part of a shared wealth scenario where we all live exceptionally well. We all take the stresses of our life away from us. All that nature of trying to pay our bills or trying to pay our house and missing payments and all the stresses and all the things that slow us down, all the time we spend on the phones. If we can get all that time back, if we can work potentially more effectively, such that our time is being able to give them back to us in ways where we can consume media, because we probably need to sell it to someone. I can't guarantee the stability of cultures outside of ones that live under this model. So, it'd be nice to think. But there's ways that we can make all this happen. And so I'm possibly getting a little bit fatigued here. It's not that, it's just that I know I'm all over the place. I know that the human mind experiences things in A equals B equals C. You design a bridge, you build a bridge, the bridge exists. But through science we've learned that the unfolded universe, the ABC reality is actually all happening at the one moment. So essentially we just need to raise our energy. We need to get there. We need to really lock onto it. I want to say intrinsically, hold it true in our hearts, in our heads. But at the end of the day it comes down to forming a big community. Actually, I'd say unifying as a country. But look, I've grown up. I've never been political, I must admit, but I left home at a young age and rejected arguably my family's wealth. Now, if I say that part of the story first, it sounds like a poor me story, but let's just put it in the inverse, right? But I had a wonderfully difficult life. I had a particularly hard mother to live with, and I left home at a very young age. And I've therefore had the joy of renting a lot, had the joy of moving a lot, had the joy of having a lot of different jobs, I've had the joy of raising a child. I've done a lot of the things that arguably give me the empathy to understand what the needs are of various people in various stages of their life. And the pitfalls and the troubles and the difficulties, the stumbling blocks. And so my solution factors all of that in. It really is important that we do right by everyone. There's no more time for isms, right? It really isn't. And this notion of arguing, contemplating the lint in our navels and arguing for something that's important to us when we're driving off a cliff en masse as a whole, as a collective, and yet none of us are feeling like we're collectively driving off a cliff. So nobody's actually able to turn the steering wheel and pilot us in a different direction. So we do need to unify. We do need to form a collective, a whole. And as I say, there's been precedent where it's been done. And I do believe if we get enough people together, right, we only need groups or communities of about 350 people to have enough of the specialisations that are needed to hold the community together. If you do that on a suburb basis, and you do that then suburbs interconnected, and you do that with a wider connection that allows the interchanging of product, all of our needs can be met. And we can do so in a way that grows value for our economy. Case in point, if you take valueless land and put assets on it that actually are worth something in terms of suburbs and whatnot, you've actually got profit in a range of ways. And at the moment, the notion of re-engineering our cities because of the population has grown, and all those people still want to stay in the cities because that's technically where the jobs are. Australia's tried it. We've gone super cities. I think a couple of years back they built like 5 super cities around the country, and I live 30 minutes down the road from one of them. It looked much different to any standard country town. We might have had a lock-up zone, arguably, for keeping the imports separate from everybody. It was a job for a lot of people. I had friends that were security guards there, arguably. They didn't feel that way. I think there was a pretty positive relationship between everybody. But yeah, sure, we can create super cities on the basis that trying to make the current system work, but arguably we're still stuck in a scenario where all the individual workers might be unhappy or might have their own costs and their own downfalls in their own private lives, such that there's instability, such that the teammates can't rely on them, such that everything's all in a state of flakiness. You just can't have that. Whenever everything is commercial, everyone's trying to save a dollar and pitch a plan that saves a little bit of money, right? And obfuscate what we're actually losing in the nature of them being able to bring that cost down. That's where the difficulties really stem from. So this nature of private enterprise, individual, small groups of people getting really profitable, we've had that. They've all just basically stockpiled the money elsewhere. And so over the last 100 years, the more we've given tax breaks, the more we've let the people with all the money keep more of it, the more they've held on to it. And ruthlessly, right? And it's just crazy. You go back 120 odd years ago, the uber rich would build the parks, and they would dedicate hospital wings, and they were always doing that, right? It was a thing, right? And then little bit by little bit over the last 100 years, for a range of reasons, and I can understand why those reasons might be, but we're finding that hasn't worked out. And the nature of being in a fear-based reality is that we all feel that we have to be fairly insular and protect ourselves. So now, en masse, we've got billions of people all trying to scurry their money together in a way that's not working for society. And now we're at this point where we're all using our money almost against each other. I mean, I've made the example in other videos how we weaponise medicine. That is our doom strategy. There's no other doom than the fact that we've weaponised medicine. Full stop, that's it. I can predict 15 other ways in which humanity might have issues. Anything from something from outer space just crashing into our planet. I don't think anything from outer space that's going to land on our planet is going to hurt us anywhere near as much as we're going to hurt ourselves. Arguably, we can see evidence that anything might be up there that's kind of peacefully letting us sort our own shit out, just trying to figure out if we're going to survive our own great filter. I mean, arguably, we need to be making a pyramid. We know there's pole shifts. We need to be doing what every other society through time has done when there's been a pole shift coming. Everybody's just got together and gone, hey, let's make a structure that's going to survive this weather change or this temperature change. Let's stockpile some food. So without sounding like a zany, that could be part of the tourism that comes from such a plan. Just talking about cells, talking about coming in from both angles and groups. I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, individuals, families, happiness, choosing the aspects in life that you want to live, working with ethics. Just realised I haven't even got myself on the screen on the camera. I can flip that round. I really should, so I can see if I'm still recording. See if I've got the video time left. Battery's still going. I didn't think I'd be on this camera so long as the sun would rise. I didn't know if I'd be able to get a 30-minute pitch down where I pitch aspects of the idea. I know I've never done that video before. I do believe it's a 2 or 3 hour video. Structurally it talks about a lot of the politics, mission statement, core values, if you will. There's a lot that works hand in hand, and the reason why it's an economic recovery plan for the country is that a lot of what we offer in terms of quality of food, quality of support, and looking after the elderly, giving up jobs to the unemployed, all of those things that actually solve a lot of the governmental costs that are just prohibitive and breaking our backs trying to carry them, is the ability to work with military and training and being able to give, again, good food to so many primary sectors that really matter. Just being able to lower the cost of living for our unemployed is huge. Arguably, not having unemployed, having work. You know, again, there's different ways this plan rolls out depending on if it's the optimal package, I guess, as I would want it as a humanitarian, and hoping that lots of people jump to the beat of that drum. I brought a little instrument, so if I was nervous I could do this. Not nervous, but I need music. Keeps me going. Yeah, I can't guarantee that. So if we're essentially a private enterprise, if we're a charity, we're a not-for-profit, we're doing distributive wealth, we're just trying to look after our own employees, I do think over time a lot of people are going to jump ship to it. And that creates some really funky stuff. And that's why this video is really hard to do, because there's really 2 different videos. There's a video you do if society isn't jumping to it, and the altruists don't go, hey, here's money, let's make this happen. And that's probably around the world simultaneously, such that we've got like a barter and exchange system going with produce, etc. We get stuck in a scenario where we have to be individually accountable for and profitable in an individual, arguably, cell. And that's very doable. So arguably then it becomes like a pitch that is, like any other business, has to show potential profit. And then, I mean, I've pitched about the notion of doing call centres and in other videos, I guess, being the nursing homes for the elderly and all sorts of things regarding education and medicine and control groups, and therefore being able to do measurable science because we've got less variable factors, which makes the results useful. There's a lot of things that are very profitable. Personally, I think it's more in the entertainment side of things because of the fact that it's a make it once, sell it multiple times product. And I do believe the quality of the product goes right up when you've got creatives or people of a certain calibre. I mean, I was raised very much across a few different schools. I'm a middle intelligence for Australia. I'm not middle intelligent. I'm intelligent, yes, but I'm not trying to be ego bashing here at all. Is that when you look at creatives, like there's multiple different types of intelligence. It's been postulated there's like 8 different types of intelligence: physical intelligence, emotional intelligence, etc., etc. Right? When you actualise people, you let them operate without the fears, and you give them all their needs and the things that allow them to be the happy, healthy person. The output of that capable being goes up. The actualised being, if you will, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Abraham Maslow, psychological forefather, humanism, the 70s. Right? So, I love the humanists. Okay, so, yeah, the quality of our output and being improved. What I was going to say about me for a second, yes. Okay, I basically can't pick up a digital product or play a game without constantly seeing all the issues. Like it'll be on one particular platform and it'll be using a control system that's designed for an analog mouse rather than a digital joypad. And then you just see where it keeps kicking over and being wrong all the way through it. And you could argue that it's just because programmers, people are really good with numbers, sometimes are operating a little bit in a sphere or a spectrum. It isn't a whole emotional connection to the rest of the planet. And so they don't really interact with products in the same way, and they're just happy when things work and you can click through it. And then other people come along and maybe, some people are visual learners, some people are auditory learners, some people are kinesthetic. And if the doing or the interaction of it isn't where it needs to be, it might be really frustrating. I don't know. Traditionally, those people haven't been served well by the school system, because the school system usually been by rote learning. It's been quite often visual, a little bit auditory, not so much in the way of doing. But all this changes, and this is the thing: is we need to adopt technology. The nature of the fact that artificial intelligence can allow faster responses to engaged minds when they have questions is that the schools where you typically have one teacher to a classroom of 20, which is somewhat ideal, right? Class of 15 maybe, but that doesn't happen on one-to-one as ideal. But hey, and then you look at times where we're fiscally broke and countries don't have enough teachers, or we don't have enough money to keep enough teachers on staff, and we wind up with classrooms of 30. And it's really hard to redress the needs of the classroom, especially if you've got a potentially difficult child, because of a range of reasons, because the base of modern living, which might be affecting their parents, might be affecting their stable, happy home life. They might come into class, they might be disruptive, right? And so teachers aren't glorified babysitters. We want to learn, and when somebody wants to learn, if we strike while the iron is hot, and we present the information that's there available for them, they actually get on with the topic, they actually learn and remember what they're learning. And and again, being in that state of creativity and not losing the steam in their balloon or the air in their balloon, and being able to continue the path and pace, I think it's better for that. So, I haven't pitched even a part really of what I wanted to pitch. But we just need to unify. We need to change up the way we're doing things. There is plans, there's lots of people all over the world individually, but there's lots of people who are altruistic and are just filled with inspiration or confidence in aspects that they've seen at work. And in little groups, they're all trying to make it happen. But we need to nurture, not just in little groups. We need to empower the people who are pro-humanity and positive, right? And probably more altruistic or more sharing. Living in a fear-based paradigm. We're all living in a fear-based paradigm, but how much do we feed that tiger, eh? Like, confidence and courage, right? Courage. Live at the level of courage. Here's the thing, is it wouldn't require sacrifice for very long. Arguably, even if one generation had to arguably give up aspects of their wealth, I would say it would be invested, and there'd be remuneration. Yes, there would. Of course there is, because in this society, art is again valuable, right? You've got all your best homemakers, and they can choose each day if they want to be building the mass market carbon cut copy, cubicle domicile, aka apartments, like when you need to house people massively and quickly. But then there's the artisan approach, where you spend time working on balustrades, and, out of rock, marbles, or primary resources, I don't know, whatever rock's local, ideally. Maybe, I don't know, wealthy, they can bring it in from elsewhere. If they want to spend their money in said organisation to get that little bit of an ego boost, right, it's not, because everybody in that society is going to cherish those people, because they're going to recognise that it might be a ratio of 1.1, where the 10% of whatever they've bought for themselves has gone straight into supporting all the things around it, right? We're going to get back to times where people are going to all be propping each other up. And there's endemic wealth. You do have generational legacy. We've got all that still going on. But we need to, in order to honour that, we need to have a world that people can A, inherit, and B, has value. I could add a C, but people lose focus when you present more than two options. Keeping it simple. There's two options. We can continue the way we're going, and we're doomed. Right? Guaranteed. Because it's not from above, it's not from anything else, just people and infighting and commercialism. We're tearing our planet apart, right? There's no happiness. We're all losing. We're all losing out. And we can't afford that anymore. People are valuable, right? We're more valuable than $1. We're more valuable than money. So I actually brought some props with me today. If it had been a long video, probably not the right time to talk about this. There's things to talk about. I was talking about cells before, and the fact that our Indigenous folk, I don't think they'd want to work. Not that I'm racist, but I truly believe that their tribes and their cultures could have a monorail to meet. So they'd probably want some insulation, some protection, if you will. It also comes down that any person might just choose to live in a suburb that basically has zero contact with anybody outside of them. And if mandated medical laws that are about to come, because we weaponise medicine, mandated medicine laws that impose that we need to be cellular, otherwise, you're going to get the jab. Papers, please. That's all happening. Right, this coin here I picked up before I left the house. Nice and shiny one. It's just talking about change, right? It's just on the back of this coin. I'm in Australia. We're part of the monarchy. I think we pushed in '88. No, we pushed at some point where we wanted to go independent, become like a republic. I think it went to the vote. Never when things go to the vote, even if it makes logical sense. It doesn't happen. I'm not saying I was a Republican. But yeah, we had a queen, so I guess now we've got coins with a king on them. So I picked up this coin for two reasons. I thought this one was really beautiful. 2005, that's the time when my child was born. So in that much time, this coin's looking pretty aged, right? I don't consider my child, I don't think it's very capable of, I don't think anyone really, there's a few, but the age of 20 is no longer an adult. I'm not saying those people aren't stressed and they haven't learned a lot, but I know for my era and for all the people I knew that were on the street and how young and tough we had to be. By the time I was 28, by the time I was 16, 17, 18, I felt pretty confident. I'd run quite a few businesses at that point. Started quite a few businesses at that point, been quite profitable, successful. Some people have tenacity, sure, but this here, when I look at it, on the front, celebrating World War II, it's bringing them home. It's kind of hard to celebrate war. Let's say 1937, 1943 perhaps, probably 1945 if I can read it correctly, my guess. Yeah, maybe 1945, so it's coming home. Shows some diggers on it. And, just the other day, quit my last job or been sacked from it, not really sure. Loggerheads. And as I'm walking out, there's some in the streets around my town, they've got all the cars queued up at the intersections. They've got people playing the instruments. Probably 11 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. I thought it was lovely. We need to have a sense of history. Those that don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. If you look at history, definitely we've survived because of pyramids all around the world, all different cultures. Probably all the times when there's been a pole shift. That's something that happens. I think I took my tangent away there. I was going to talk about individuals and families. There's so much there to talk about. Because that's really what matters. It doesn't matter if I talk about grand concepts for human civilization. At the end of the day, the only thing that matters is you and your family, right? And your personal power is zero, right? So at the moment, when a postage stamp gets lost and you have to complain about it, that you're on hold for 45 minutes to try to argue over something that's not worth that, right? And you know that your telephone company can just do that, and all of a sudden you just have to pay that bill, or you can waste a lot of time arguing with them. There's someone that spent hundreds of hours arguing with all 3 primary telcos in my country and never being able to get the remedy in place that needs to be put in place, and ultimately it's just gone, screw it, and walked away, and then they've just ultimately gone, screw it, and we'll charge you heaps of money, and you can pay it unethically and wrongfully, and it's just a case of, just lawyer up. I don't want to lawyer up. I don't align with that. And that's because the media made the world not want to be litigious, right? It was all over a coffee that got spilled. But through clever use of the media and programming of the minds, we all went, I don't want to be seen like that whinger. That person wasn't a whinger. All they wanted was their fair medical costs, and they'd been actually quite polite about the whole thing up to a certain point. And then went, okay, then we will lawyer up. Right? Nobody wants to be that person. But what does matter is you and your family. And the ways to protect them isn't. Right? I've had apps deleted off my phone because my phone deemed that was the case. Right? The free space it needed to force probably security updates in the back end. And they just turn on features. I'm constantly being asked to turn certain features on. And after a while, it'll just turn the features on automatically. Okay, what was the point of asking so many times? Right? The invasiveness of how anything can put itself in front of us because there might be commercial profit for someone. Any new objects I've bought, any new products. There's so much forced, they wouldn't call it advertising, but really, It's to force me down certain lines to get certain products. Right? All these things just waste our time, they waste our money. We get stuck paying these things, and nothing is pro-person. And the only way that computers have worked so far, this is a bit of a tangent, but society as a whole, we need to be able to use technology. I did give an example of how AI can help in classroom environments. I don't want huge amounts of Wi-Fi and technology around our kids. I want tactile stuff, connecting with nature and being part of the world. But we need this blend, and yeah, my apologies there. I do this video so I'm not sleeping, right? So my brow just squinch up. I get up in the wee hours of the morning because I'm worried about the technology and how it's squeezing us off the planet, and the corporations and how they're not, individually they're not winning, and that's why they have to be so unscrupulous, because they've got competitors. And unless the company that you support is the most unethical, it won't win, which means bit by bit your hobby or your products will be decimated, and bit by bit your satisfaction for the wages that you're presently earning won't work out for you. There's nothing in the present paradigm that's going to let you be a happy member of your family, or let the members of your family be happy or healthy. That's all that matters. Quality of life. Quality of life. We need to change it up, but we need to be proactive. We need to be forward-thinking, right? And we are driving off a cliff. We are fully aware, right? The beautiful quote. I won't quote other people. I won't. But yeah, we are aware of our imminence, our fleckiness, if you will, our fragility, and we generally push that out of our mind and just go back to slaves to the grind. But let's face it, no businesses are caring about us individually, and look, you might have all the passion in the world for your own projects, but at the end of the day you're going to be competing against someone that's just more ruthless and willing to undercut you and willing to just squish you out of the market. And we need people with ethics. We need all the people that have been hurt because they've been legitimate and they've been pro-humanity and pro-people. We need those people, right? All those people that are probably staring at the roof half the time, or feeling like they just want to go back to being a peon. I've just done peon roles the last couple of years of my life. And then believe it or not, I hurt a leg and an arm. And I actually considered myself almost incapable of working. Certain jobs, physically laborious jobs, and my mind hasn't done well with that. It's like I've always been able to do anything I put my mind to, and then I learned I couldn't. It was pretty devastating. So I guess we all need a backup plan. We need a rainy day stuff going. We don't need it done out of fear, where we stockpile all our money. We need to make our money work for us so that our family can be happy in the short term and in the long term. Yeah, we need to start thinking in the long term. And if I haven't rolled out aspects of this plan, I haven't. I know I haven't. I really want to. I've got so much of it down pat. For 20 years, 24 years, I've been testing this model out. And every time I read a paper or an article on something, I confirm it against the model, and the model has never once had to change one iota, right? Whatever vision it was I was living in, right? And it's just, okay, if it's a prophecy, I don't want to be a prophet. I don't like public speaking. I'm on these cameras out of necessity because I've got a kid and I care about the world. I don't want to be a prophet, but I've seen it. It's something that would, as a financial plan, save our country, irrelevant of whether it's the ideal state and altruistic and everyone's involved, or if it is just a private enterprise, arguably a charity, and we're looking after our employees to the highest standard of living humanly possible. But either or, I want to get involved. Yeah. Don't really know where to begin. Setting up a charity is part of it. I mean, I do know where to begin. I know that once I can go full time on this, yeah. Problem is, I'm generally trying to seek a government benefit. I don't usually get them. Spent a lot of time in the last couple of years not receiving them. I'm trying to get appeals in because unethical and unscrupulous people have screwed me out in all sorts of ways. The last 3 or 4 jobs I've had, not including the last one, a couple of them I've just walked out of and just not received a month's worth of wages. And I've declared to Centrelink I didn't get those wages until I've been kicked off Centrelink for other reasons. All wrong. I haven't received rent assistance or anything for a very, very, very long time. I had a mother of my child basically get my child back a couple of months ago, and I drew a line in the sand and said, I didn't say personally your generation doesn't know how to live, but I just asked to live as a housemate. Right? Just tried to say, look, don't be the weakest link. learn some basic skills. I said, look, maybe go to your mum's house and measure the time it takes to get to school. From there, maybe see a reason why it might be worth trying to live to some rules in a household. No, I'm literally saying this kid never took a bin out, never washed a dish, never cleaned their room, and these were things I've been asking for years. And I'm not allowed to punish or discipline, right? So I said, hey, maybe go to your mum's house. And because I'd taken their entertainment toys off them, some headphones and an electronic portal, they opted to just move to their mum's house. Straight away, the mum, right? Even though I raised my kid for 9.5 years by myself, well, with another woman that was basically supporting my family unit, straight away the mum's gone to the government, gone, I'm the primary carer of this child. I had a massive back debt, right, for a mum who never gave me a dime, never supported me at all through the whole process. And this is just becoming a whinge story. I don't want to make it a whinge story. But I guess what I'm trying to say is anyone at any point can screw you out and wind up in a place of stress. And I just want to build, a civilization that works well. Maybe we use kinesiology to get a yes or no answer to any question asked, eh? Maybe we do all sorts of, right, contemplating society using tools and sciences that are actually part of it, technology that actually works for us. But yeah, with the goal always of raising quality of life. And I mean, that's not an expensive cost, if that's important, right? It really isn't. There's ways to do it, and we just got to do it in a new paradigm where there's value adding non-stop every step of the way. I think in that society, in that model, I think people are happy to work. I think kids at a younger age might be capable of working, right? It's not about willingness to work. Kids claim they're willing to work. They're not really capable of working. You can't give them feedback. They just crumple and quit. Or you can't, communication between the generations is starting to fall apart. So there's a reason why lots of fast food menus are run by 16-year-olds. It's because you can create a document in point form that explains what this position is, right? So it's very easy to get people in a reliable way to perform certain tasks. And there is the ability to have a wider working life when you've got quality of life. And you want people who know the floor to walk the floor, right? And not necessarily walk the floor if they're old, they might drive a little electronic buggy. But we need to have expertise kept. And I do believe we need to, instead of just automating everything using industrial revolution and therefore primary resources to do certain tasks, we have an active workforce, potentially, that can uptake a lot of that. And there are certain things, it's just general happiness comes from that, right? Being integrated, being part of society, giving back, right? A lot of mental health issues drop off, and that's a large cost to our society. All medicine is designed to treat the symptoms, not the cause. If we redress the causes, right, the cost of living in a lot of ways comes right down. But having a younger population that's able to work, and just a little bit, just in a way that makes them feel good, but also starts to induct them, if you will, into the nature of, as a person in command, you do what they say, those sorts of things, can be useful. And I don't just mean for them to be robots or factory workers or slaves to the grind, but just that when we need to get things done, they need to get done. Right? And as my family comes from just all of the businesses were in a flood zone, and quite a few floods ago, there was a moment where they'd put a lot of the valuable stuff away, and at the last minute they realised there was this generator that was quite capable of generating power when obviously when the floodwaters have gone down, there's going to be a need for that. And I just remember the way my uncle described to me. He said like the equipment to move it was basically not available. And this thing was heavy, and people just got together, right? Not just from his business. And they picked the thing up and moved it. And it's just, that's where we are as a society, right? We need to just pick ourselves up and move a little bit in our direction, right? We don't have to give up quality of life at all. And if we do, maybe briefly, maybe like reclaiming desert for a brief moment, right? Brief moment. We do so in order to change the future of our world and or have humanity have a potential future. I hope this has been a positive video for you. Don't know if this is my exit moment. Anyone watching it can know where the video ends by moving their mouse around and touching the screen and going, oh, hang on, the bar's still going. Yeah, maybe the batteries ran out a while ago. I'm just going to check if I may. Get on camera. Alright, what happens if I flip this around? You wouldn't believe it. I'm still recording. Oh well, you would. I didn't. Still recording. Okay, I can see that the daylight's coming up. I can see my screen's getting brighter. I can see that my voice has been exceptionally low the whole time. So I might have to get into that video editing software and learn how to, that's not learn how to, due to lack of costs. I've had the attitude of all my videos are unprofessional on the basis that, no one's backing me. You get what you pay for. I'm doing this for free because I can't sleep, because I feel that it's a calling I've been given I don't really want at all. Most of that time when I'm raising my kid, it was out of fear to be on the radars of people that might, through their own private business needs, not want such an idea to get out there. So out of fear, I guess, I've been really quiet for a very long time. I guess a lot of that changes when I feel like I'm back to being independent. My kid's not under my roof anymore, so that's empowering. Look, the notion of a mass transport system and a population that can choose their way of life and choose aspects of their insularity is really important. And I guess the overarching theme for me, if you want a doom scenario, right, we're at the 1 hour mark, everyone's fatigued, right? So while you're fatigued and you can't put your blinkers up, there's two lots of people right now, there's two groups. Those are going to quit this video because I'm going to start talking negative, only for a moment. And those are going to be like, oh, my energy's worn down and what he's saying makes sense, right? I hope you're in that camp. Right, a couple of years ago, try not here to be specific in any regard, there was a leak, right? It wasn't an information leak, what we would call a wiki leak. No. There was a laboratory, and we know that the government put up a request to get the aircon fixed and actually recanted that. Right, it's a very weird competition they were basically running, saying everybody submit your documents to fix the aircon. We'll look at your documents and then we'll give you this contract. The contract was to service the aircon, and they basically needed a company that was going to be kind of mum's the word, I guess. But we also know that they built a huge hospital in a small amount of time, and that, yeah, satellites footage confirmed that hospital had been built kind of ahead of schedule to the time that it was proposed and started building it, which actually kind of made the size of the works that were done more reasonable in terms of what people generally achieve over a small amount of time. But the world never held a business accountable, right? Now by doing that, and I'm not picking on that at all, right? That's something that happened. I believe it was an accident. Accidents happen, and that's the problem. What we now have is that a lot of businesses around the world, right, and just to say that this isn't valuable, right, there's wars going on in a zone where a lot of the vaccines around the planet, because vaccines made some companies very rich very quickly, right, and the government's got on board with that. In fact, some governments are a little bit unscrupulous, right, a lot of their politicians, right, were invested in some of this stuff, and then they forced, through their own channels, for private health insurers to support the purchase of a product that would, because they were shareholders or invested in, would make their money, right? Unfucking scrupulous. Oh, did I swear? Yeah, this video ain't for kids, especially this bit. So, we've weaponised medicine. Why? Not because of what's been, but because business people are always trying to think ahead of the curve. That's how you run business, right? And if you're business, if you're a research laboratory, and in order to create a solution to a sickness, you have to play with variants of a sickness. If you realise that for whatever reason your grant is not about to be re-given, or if you realise for any reason you're about to go under and lose your job, and you've got kids in school who need to finish, and for whatever the stresses are in your life, you feel absolutely compelled to do something just a little bit unethical, which is a simple case of, oops, right? Because if you release the sickness that you have a solution to, you might just become the richest person on the planet, or certainly right up there. So yeah, we've weaponised medicine, because nobody can control or regulate people individually around the globe en masse, and to stop that happening. So it's time to be terrified, because that is a doom scenario for people. Because the sad thing is, all of these solutions, these vaccines, right? A vaccine, by the standards of a vaccine, as it's been throughout history, if it had a fail rate of like 1 in 10,000, it would be pulled from market. Right? If one person showed symptoms of a sickness, or something that was a comeuppance from having that, it would be pulled. And vaccines typically were something that worked over a large amount of time. Right? What we've had the last couple of years are not vaccines. They have made people very, very rich, and they've been very, very untested, and they're very much based on the symptoms that everyone was getting from them. should have been pulled from the market. Now, I'm not going to talk about mRNA or the fact that we're changing our DNA essentially because we're re-encoding strands. Look, let's not get into the science of it. This is not a heavy video. But it is a heavy video when we know that we've just weaponised medicine, because the problem isn't right now, the problem is about to come up, right? And it might not be this year, it might not be next year, but in the next decade, at some point, there is going to be things released en masse that we might not be able to get a handle on, and we might not be able to get a control on. So if we do not have insular little pockets, we're doomed. Potentially, if human civilization can't unify in such a way that the cost of living, if we can't get our governments to be profitable, any notion of having a safe storehouse and a large stockpile of food ready for an issue coming up, like a pole shift, that won't happen either. So the plan I'm pitching, other than raising quality of life and other than giving people security, financial freedom, their happiness, all sorts of things, right? All sorts of things that allow people to be more focused on their family and more loving to each other, right? All the actualised being stuff, right? Put all that aside, right? If there's only two things that come out of it, which is stockpiled food of high quality and living in accordance with the planet, and not just, basically having the ability for humanity to go on, right, full stop, useful. And in that notion of if we do go on, being able to have a cohesive group that is able to work together to build something like, and call it art, call it tourism, it might be glass pyramid, I don't know. Build something amazing. And look, there's two solutions right there, and either one of them is probably needed. Both of them, I would say. And all three of them, arguably, if we're talking about having cellular insulation such that people can deem the way they wish to live, if they want to live in a suburb that doesn't have people coming through it, right. And this is sounding a little bit weird, but given that there's going to be medicine mandates, and I think WA's passed it, the state I live in, but based on what I was told isn't going to kick in until about March 2024, is the notion of medicine solutions being forced on us, right? And that's ridiculous beyond. There are people out there that have died. I think Bob Marley, because he didn't take medicine that was in alignment with his religious beliefs. I myself basically never see a doctor. The reason I lost my job a couple of days ago was that I wouldn't get a medical certificate and I didn't need one. But I don't go to see doctors. I basically broke my arm and my leg last year, and I just let them heal naturally. Probably not a good thing. Don't do as I say, don't do as I do in that scenario. Yeah, I'm an idiot, but I wasn't living right. I wasn't in the right state of mind. This is what happens when we're not actualised beings. We're not able to handle the way that every business and everything in the world is trying to strip us of our time and our money, and therefore it's creating stress. Stress in all our medias, it's in everything. It's encoded because everyone else is stressful. It's encoded in everything. So I'm sorry if I'm being stressful. I kind of like it when I wake up in the morning. I feel like I've got a clean mind. I haven't been able to dream for the last couple of weeks. It's great. It's got this mind. I just feel like a zombie, unable to think. But if this is me being unable to think, this is me being potentially tired, I can do better. I'd like to do better. Problem is, I'm still a slave to the grind. I've got a lot of fiscals to go and cover, so I'm probably going to go and put a lot of my goods up for sale, deal with unscrupulous types trying to rip me off, because people around the world are broke. I've lost a lot of money trying to sell second-hand goods, trying to buy second-hand goods in the last couple of years. So I'm going to go and probably liquidate about a third of my household, my car. But with that, I guess, comes an aspect of independence. I do believe my partner and I, we've got a 60s bus. 60s, we can't afford one newer. And I'd like to put some RF safe curtains in it, some material, silver based, that's out there, RF frequency free clothing. I'd like to, I don't know how reliable, how big it will be. I'd like to break some ground and make some traction towards. I don't want to do the same thing as lots of other people. I've come from Hippiesville over east, and they don't like being referred to as hippies. But where everyone kind of works in co-ops and everyone works together, and it's out there. But divided we stand. No, divided we fall. Together we stand. Not yet, right? At the moment, we're divided and we're falling. We're divided, we're thinking we're standing, and that's just not happening, right? But we need to change our ways. Anyway, I've got a pitch. to the government. I've tried to pitch it. I've had no luck. I've reached out to politicians. So if you've watched this video to this point, trust me, I've spent a lot more time than this, and this is why I stopped doing these videos a year and a half ago. So not only do I constantly have technology fails in recording, I could just tell it wasn't the right time because it just felt like everything was being just too hard on me. Well, maybe that, or maybe I was just chicken shit. I just didn't back it hard enough. I spent a lot of time trying to get in contact with politicians and going to respective members for parliament's offices and whatnot. I didn't get over the line with anyone, didn't get a single response to a single email, didn't get anything. So I gave up, as you do. So yeah, individually we don't have much power. So maybe together we stand. Yeah, anyway, hopefully with videos better quality than this one. Maybe we can make media. Maybe a team of us can make media better than this one. And maybe work off a script that actually pitch the ideas in an ABC phenomenological existence. The way we see things, our rational mind perceives things, right? Maybe we can pitch in accordance with how most of civilization is currently beating to the, a drum which is coming off a cliff. All right, this is going to be long. If I make it too long, any point or purpose of message gets lost. It becomes daunting to anyone who starts watching it. So, to make potentially any of these words practical, if I get my typical viewer base, right? Yeah, that means my audience isn't even dead space, isn't even empty rooms, right? It's not one person. But if one person's watched this video, really quite proud of this one, actually. That'd be really good. Anyway, I hope there's been some sort of muse or musicalness in my voice. I hope I've been in some way enjoyable. I don't want to make a movie as long as Titanic if it's not of a quality or a production value or an engagement value that's worth enjoying or sharing, being a part of. I do say thank you to anyone that's shared a moment with me. I do personally think the best videos on YouTube are the ones where there's just rain. It's just peaceful. Sometimes peaceful music. Sometimes they're the ones that run for 8 hours and you can sleep to them. I think they're great. In terms of quality, yeah, look, I really hope my voice has been clean. I really hope that I've gotten through to someone, or I've at least created an archive that's worth something. But I guess if my plan isn't in point form with all the politics involved and all the... Because there's so many ways in which all the countries work together, and the ways that everyone profits and all the governments get a buffer. And that's the important thing, is that instead of governments having to get in alignment with private enterprise, that they're now propped up again. Mostly through taking off a lot of their costs, because no one predicted that medicine would extend the average age of life such that we need nursing homes. Nursing homes are costly. Partly we need better quality of food in our nursing homes so that the quality of life goes up, and we can lower medical costs in certain ways, because, as I say, medicine's designed for, if you keep people sick, you just keep offering them a solution. There's profit in it, whereas if you actually fix people, there isn't. So we kind of need to change the way we're doing some things, and all of that is part of it. It's a large part of it. But yeah, I kind of feel that if I was answering questions with an economist or somebody that understands the way these things work, I can actually explain how they work. Because I've lived in this world for forever. That's the nature of dreams. They go on for a long time. And either it was a parallel universe or something, but I've seen it, I've lived it, I've understood so many aspects of it. I've been on in an office that is essentially like the boardroom. Well, it's a nice building, and I understand a lot of the, I want to say, politics or economics of it, but there's so many aspects to it, to that structure, that's just convoluted, quite complex, quite beautiful. It definitely supports governments, and it definitely props them up, and that's pretty important. So yeah, look, if we want an economic recovery plan, I don't think that rebuilding our current cities is the way forward. I think some of that money could be much more effective when supporting people who are somewhat altruistic, right? And at the end of the day, if that's the last bastions of humanity, wouldn't that be nice? I mean, really, wouldn't it be nice if somebody looked around and all they could see was joy and, like, not so much enlightenment or bliss, but like people just living as actualized beings and being happy, right? Yeah, that'd be pretty amazing. So yeah, support support, I can't say the brotherhood of man, doesn't sound inclusive. As I say, we don't want isms going into the modern world. Includes ageism, includes all sorts of isms. Let's empower everybody, right? And it's amazing, we don't need to have our infighting over things that don't matter, right? When things that do matter is things like clean drinking water and good food and a roof over our heads, right? Let's work on those primary goals, and let's see that when we can live in a society without fear and hatred, and how instead of casting stones at other people and shaming them and judging them, right? And a lot of the urgent needs of people to be recognised as an ego-intact being or a healthy being or a happy being, a lot of that stuff kind of fixes itself along the way, just in the nature of society becoming a healthier place and there being less hatred in the world, less fear in the world. So we need to live at a level of courage, go on, go forward. Anyway, if the epoch of humanity is worth anything to anyone, wouldn't it be nice? Namaste, much love, joy with you, a great day, well wishes your way.